the game.
Kelsey, thank you. These teams are one win away from the Final Four. It sounds so easy, but man, the pressure that comes with that statement. 40 minutes of basketball stand between TCU and South Carolina, and a dream. The Final Four in Phoenix, where one spot is left for one of these teams. Welcome to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. You're watching the Elite Eight presented by AT&T. After Texas's dominant win, there's just one spot left. One of these teams, South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina looking for a 6th straight appearance in the Final Four. Here's Tenaya Latson, who was so good in her first Sweet 16 game 2 days ago. Medina Okot with the rebound. All kinds of traffic around Okot. Kicks out to Raven Johnson. That one bounces out. And Marta's lineups, they're brought to you by Capital One. And the duo we talked about, Olivia Miles plus Marta Suarez. What's the biggest defensive worry with Marta?
Well, Marta's versatility, her ability to play inside, outside. You've got to stay really disciplined. You can't overhelp and let her run free at the three-point line.
South Carolina's going to push pace. And that's going to be a foul on Olivia.
They don't want to be slowed down by TCU, who wants to play in the half court.
There's a starting 5 for South Carolina. Raven Johnson, of course, the leader. But they've got Okot and Joyce Edwards on the inside that can make a difference, too. Suarez working on Edwards.
Suarez has such great experience. She understands that Joyce Edwards has the advantage in terms of athleticism, but she does such a good job of getting her shoulder into the chest. The arm defending the ball.
This is the first time South Carolina's trailed in the tournament. Olivia Miles kisses it off the glass.
I think right away TCU's doing a good job of forcing the team. 2nd in the nation defensive field goal percentage.
And you see Donovan Hunter, number 4 in purple. She usually gets the best player on the other team as her defensive assignment. She's on Raven Johnson right now. Trying to hustle after that basketball and gets it. Big beat. Covered up by Tessa Johnson. Looking for the paint instead. The turnaround will
to be out there. I'd like to see how it affects her aggressiveness on both ends.
Oh, 2 fouls for Olivia Miles. Remember, her and Marta Suarez touched every point in their Sweet 16 win. That's how important she is.
Well, now you got an opportunity.
Marta Suarez for 3, showing off the versatility.
Yeah, if you're going to switch that, you can't be back in the switch. You've got to be up, almost jump switch that. Marta Suarez does a great job of reading. I think you got to get Latson a touch. I think you got to let her go against Olivia Miles.
Instead, they turn it over, up ahead to Olivia Miles. Joyce Edwards, the only defender. Blocked it anyway.
Get it over.
Barely beat the clock on that one.
It didn't seem like there was a lot of urgency.
If you're looking for the Latson-Miles matchup, top of your screen, Latson 0-0. Remember, Olivia Miles, number 5 in purple with 2 fouls.
I mean, now I'd get out of the way and I'd let her go to work.
Kind of like that?
Yeah, I mean, Olivia Miles is going to switch that ball screen. I like just a straight isolation. Run a couple of actions, give Tenaya Latson an ISO.
Silva back to Miles. And Joyce Edwards is right there. She's going to shoot over her anyway.
There's got to be a little bit of that as opposed to an attack and a draw.
Tessa Johnson too much on the mid-range. Joyce Edwards the hustle to get it back.
The pass.
Medina Okot.
That's a great pass by the dribble jump shots. That time, draw a secondary defender and find an open teammate.
Donovan Hunter doing the pick and roll with Clara Silva. It's kind of a staple of this TCU offense. That one goes off of Hunter. It'll be South Carolina.
Understanding that in order to find success now, it has to be through the transfer portal. And then once you find success, it allows you to, he says, as backfill with recruiting of high school players.
Olivia,
I think you got to find a way to attack her on the offensive end. You don't want to take yourself out of flow, but you get an opportunity.
Universals trailed in the NCAA tournament this year. Every other game, they had started on double-figure runs. Miles Miles misses. Raven Johnson comes out with it.
Well, Mark Campbell talked to us yesterday. He just wants his team to play free. The pressure's not on them in this situation. He wants them to play free, to have fun, to be the best versions of themselves.
It's going to be a kick ball by Kennedy Basham. Big B sits down for TCU. Allie Tornabees with the basketball. Raven Johnson lets it fly. 50% from the field. Suarez can't step around Joyce Edwards.
And TCU's doing a really good job of getting back in transition defense. Dawn Staley talked to us about the pace that she wanted to play. She wanted to get up and down the floor. TCU 3.
Inside to Tornabees. Working on Basham. And short off the iron. Joyce Edwards with the board.
That was really good D by Kennedy Basham. South Carolina so active on the offensive glass.
Olivia Miles can't get the step back three. McKeer pulls up in the paint.
I love it. Agat McKeer has been ability to elevate over defenders. She's got to continue to stay aggressive.
She was the number 6 overall recruit in this incoming freshman class.
And I love this matchup. Agat McKeer using her length on Olivia Miles. Olivia Miles' experience.
Inside to Suarez. And South Carolina will try to extend that 10-2. Raven Johnson probing. 3 seconds. Joyce Edwards. First lead of the game for South Carolina. Oh, and Olivia Miles almost got the half-court shot. Quite our coach. How do you feel about leaving Olivia Miles out there with 2 fouls?
Well, I'm not sure he has much of a choice.
Yeah.
You know, certainly you could manage it by bringing her out for a few minutes at a time and bringing her back in. But the quality of depth right now for TCU, I mean, he really does have to run the offensive end. You can attack her, force some rotations.
Miles over to Marta Suarez. Sheffy. Hunter here. All right, South Carolina trailed by 8. Now they're on a 12-2 run. What? She's trying to set that screen. You mentioned the defense. TCU
Early, they started working the ball a little bit more and getting uncontested looks. And then they locked it down on the defensive end. And these are 2 of the top defensive teams in the country.
Well, there's going to be an offensive foul against Allie Tornabees. Her first, second in the nation in opponent field goal percentage. South Carolina 6th in the nation in field goal percentage defense. These are complete teams that you're seeing here in the Elite 8. Miles trying to get around McKeer. And McKeer got a hand on that.
That's that length. Miles, you got to get some deflections that lead to steals.
And Marta Suarez got the deflection there on defense for TCU.
Yeah, that's one of those you just got to go to the other side. Reverse the basketball. That high-low wasn't there.
Basham spinning around Tornabees. Kennedy Basham, a player that Mark coached at TCU. At the free throw line, Raven.
And I think TCU is really going to force South Carolina to knock down those pull-ups, those mid-range pull-ups at the free throw line. Raven Johnson gets one to fall.
Raven Johnson coming off 18 points against Oklahoma in the Sweet 16. Donovan Hunter was by herself, made him pay.
If you get hit by the screen in the middle of the floor, Olivia Miles is going to find the right pass.
TCU program, she's in her 3rd straight Elite 8. Miles will pull up in transition.
They understand how they want to attack on the offensive end. They're doing a good job of getting back on the defensive end.
Agatha was ready to shoot that basketball. She's not looking like a freshman in this game.
She certainly isn't. I love it to another level.
That's a freshman who had no offseason. She was battling injury. They're just trying to get her up to speed as quick as possible to start the season, and here she is. Marta Suarez misses bad. They've led by as many as 8. South Carolina's largest lead has only been 2. Kick out to McKeer.
That's good, D, getting over the screen. But then you got to get back into play.
Suarez asking for the screen. Instead, she'll just launch the 3. And Dawn Staley is going to, asking Mark Campbell about Olivia Miles transferring in. Obviously, last year they had Haley Van Lith, and it's kind of the opposite story. Olivia Miles needed to grow in her scoring, and that's what she's done at TCU. Averaging almost 20 points per game.
And she talked about how much more comfortable and confident she feels on the offensive end scoring the basketball. She's got freedom in this system to play. She's got freedom to manipulate. And you see her pulling it from behind the screen.
Dump over to Joyce Edwards. South Carolina's only had a 2-point lead today. TCU led by 8 points. Suarez probing. She just lit it up in the Sweet 16, a career high 33 points. The swing out to Taylor Bigby won't drop in. We were talking about the pace in the break. What does South Carolina need to do to take back over?
Yeah, I think they have to pick up the pace, and it's not just in transition, it's also in the quarter court. You see walking the ball, not a lot of ball reversals. Right there, stayed in the middle third, does a great job in the 2-man of finding Joyce Edwards, and it's good to see Joyce Edwards coming alive.
She only had 8 points in the Sweet 16, and that was just the second time this season she's been in single digits. Suarez backing down Raven Johnson. 7-0 run for the Gamecocks.
That's a good read. Raven Johnson got it back.
Over to Tanaya Latson and then Joyce Edwards. Wow! Drought.
Mark Campbell imploring his team, we have to take better shots. Stop settling. He really got into Marta Suarez and said, I don't know what you're doing out there trying to take fadeaways and threes. You got to be able to play basketball. If you guys just want to go play open gym, go have at it. Johnson never loses. She goes up and she grabs the ball and she takes it.
And we've seen her do that in this game.
We have seen her do that. And he's right, she doesn't lose.
Yeah. 2-time national champion. She was won a few trophies in high school too, but to the rebounding point, South Carolina +6 on the boards right now.
Yeah, I mean, South Carolina's just active. You're not going to out-jump them. They have a size advantage and a physicality advantage at every position. You got to be more disciplined.
TCU trying to get to a very first Final Four. South Carolina, if they win tonight, it'll be their 6th. That was the first against Agatha McKeer, who's drawn the assignment of Olivia Miles. Step back. No bounds. Clara Silva with the offensive rebound.
I think Clara Silva has to find a way to get a little bit more involved for TCU as well. Certainly Suarez and Miles have carried them, but you're going to have a consistent third scorer.
Suarez and Miles have only combined for 3 points in this quarter. There's Silva.
And that's how you get her involved. You get her involved in the 2-man.
TCU until the second half to get her going in the Sweet 16. She finished with 8 points, 8 rebounds. Bigby scoops it. And Taylor Bigby's going layup.
When Bigby's average almost quiet in that Sweet 16 game against Virginia.
Just 8 points. Raven Johnson looking to work. Joyce Edwards here, can't hook it in. Johnson steps in for the three.
Keep him disciplined and pushing bodies back.
Oh, Olivia Miles trying to hit him hard with the crossover. Put back won't go for Silva. They got McKeer. Oh, in and out. To set things up for TCU, and Mark Campbell trying to get Miles' attention.
He's crossing the court. Well, he wanted that middle screen and roll.
And something happened to Marta Suarez because she slowly went to the ground, now trying to get up and walk it off. But limping as Raven Johnson holds the follow through. She's on a mission. TCU, meanwhile, 2 for their last 11 from the field. At one point, they led by 8. Hunter driving. And Tessa Johnson did a good job.
South Carolina likes to go to that low ball screen. Joyce Edwards not able to convert. Now you got to get back in transition.
Miriam Dowda called for the foul as Olivia Miles driving to the basket. Dowda's first. Chip continues on CBS and TBS. The Final Four begins Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern on TBS. For tournament game times and networks, go to ncaa.com. The winner of this game gets UConn, the #1 overall seed in the tournament, in the Final Four in Phoenix on Friday. TCU's never been there. South Carolina.
Miles and no more Marta Suarez on the floor to make a little run. At the last shot, you want to get momentum heading into half.
They face their first deficit of the tournament in this half, and Tanaya Latson is fouled by Sheffy.
Well, you had one to give.
Latson. Back to Edwards. Jumps at the free throw line.
That's great execution. Great execution. Joyce Edwards has been living right there in the mid-range.
Joyce Edwards leading South Carolina.
To do a lot that I could see. He said, but offensively, we've got to get into a better rhythm. There's too many times that we've either been stagnant without any flow or people being selfish with the basketball, and got to figure out some kind of way, he said, to stop Joyce Edwards.
If you're TCU, you're glad to see Marta Suarez back out there. Remember, her and Olivia Miles combined to touch every point that TCU scored in the Sweet 16. Just 5 seconds here for South Carolina. Latson. Okot helping her out.
When you think about Mark Campbell, somebody like Tanaya Latson, who was really quiet in that first half. Remember, this is the first time she's playing in an Elite Eight, so maybe settled in, get her a little bit more touches here in the second.
Offensively, what did you think about TCU in that first half?
I think Mark Campbell was right, taking a lot of uncharacteristic one-on-one shots. Plays like this by Marta Suarez, she can get those to fall, but they are more successful when it's catch and shoot, and Olivia Miles is creating.
Miles swings it over to Donovan Hunter. 8 until last season. Now they've gone there back-to-back years. Projected to be a top 3 draft pick this year. Donovan Hunter has a single-season record for TCU in points with over 700 this season. She also got the single-season assist record for the Horned Frogs. 6 seconds for Raven. Got her own board. A third chance won't go. And Okot traveled.
Defensive teams. Nothing is going to come easy. And when it's not going to come easy in first or second action in offense, you got to get the ball side to side. You got to get some ball reversals. Get that defense to shift just a little. And there's a couple of ball reversals for TCU.
Marta Suarez takes it inside, gets stuck. Back out to Miles, under 10 on the shot clock. Miles stepping back on a got McKeer, short. Tania Latson, she dropped 28 in the Sweet 16, just 2 points tonight. Five seconds. McKeer will take it down Main Street. No-look pass from Miles to Silva, and Edwards barely kept it from going out of bounds. Latson looking to push. And she's fouled and will go to the free throw line.
For a 6'7" big to catch in transition, and Joyce Edwards able to save the play.
Latson misses the first. The foul was on Taylor Bigby, her first. Latson's very first Elite Eight appearance. Averaged 19 points, shot over 50% from the field in the first 3 rounds. A free throw with Miles off the side of the backboard. Bigby, no. Joyce Edwards misses, and there's a foul whistled. It's going to be a second on Taylor Bigby.
But you can see right there, the feet get tangled up. Miriam Dowda coming for the offensive rebound. Taylor Bigby still moving backward, and her feet get caught up with Dowda.
Bigby stays in with those 2 fouls. McKeer with the catch. Over to Miriam Dowda. Before that, South Carolina was over its last 7. Horned Frogs haven't scored in over 2 minutes. Behind the back to Bigby. Drained it. You said you got to be ready.
You got to be 18 of 24 in the NCAA tournament.
Joyce Edwards here.
Good take.
Edwards in trouble, kicks it out to Raven. And that's going to be a travel on Raven Johnson.
That were caught with Kennedy Basham stepping up and knocking it down.
You talk about confidence for Taylor Bigby. Her daily workout includes hitting 500 threes a day. She's in the gym every morning at 7 a.m. and she told us yesterday, that's what gives me confidence to let it fly. Miles misses. Basham, no.
Now what happens when Olivia Miles gets in there is off the glass.
Suarez trying to shut down Edwards. And that's the first on Marta Suarez.
So you see Basham affecting the shot. She comes back into the play and uses that length. South Carolina has 14 offensive rebounds, but the multiple levels of effort by TCU is keeping them from knocking them down, and Basham gets an illegal screen there.
The TCU program in its first back-to-back Elite Eight appearances didn't have an Elite Eight appearance until last season. Never been to the Final Four. South Carolina's been there 7 times. That'll stay on this end with the Gamecocks, and Olivia Miles is...
In real time, it looked like Olivia Miles hit it out of bounds.
Mark Kimball's looking towards the bench, asking for some help. Should he appeal this? No, he will not.
I think sometimes players forget that it's got to be clear and conclusive when you're looking at a review and an appeal.
If you're unsuccessful in an appeal, it costs you a timeout.
Yeah?
No? Looks like Miriam Dowda was the last to touch it.
And Olivia Miles was convicted.
That one will bounce in for Agat McKeer. Miles fouled by Joyce Edwards, her first.
Kennedy Basham couldn't get back into the play. And Olivia Miles a little bit late on the help.
Miles gets the first. She's an 84% free throw shooter. When she elected to enter the transfer portal last year as opposed to going in the WNBA draft, but she's told us, said many times, she's so glad she did. The confidence level she has right now is better than it's ever been.
Each time South Carolina catches the ball, it's a catch and hold. Joyce Edwards attacks right there. The foul as Marta Suarez comes into her as she shoots that. But there's not a lot of flow and continuity in offense. Joyce Edwards does a great job of going to the rim. You see Marta Suarez continuing to come underneath her on the shot, takes the first hit, but continues to come forward into the shooter.
Second on Marta Suarez. We saw that fluidity with South Carolina's offense in the Sweet 16 for sure. It was one of the things that Dawn was so pleased with.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of resistance in terms of ball pressure and defending around the perimeter. That's not as much as
6 p.m. The Final Four games start at 7 p.m. on ESPN, and Sunday, April 5th on ABC. Championship special at 2:30 Eastern. Championship game 3:30. For more information, go to ncaa.com. These teams battling for that last spot in Phoenix in the Final Four. The winner gets UConn on Friday. Suarez short.
Post-to-post switch on the post-to-post on-ball screen. You force a fadeaway three. That's exactly what you want if you're South Carolina. Now, can you find a little bit of momentum on the offensive end?
You know, Tessa Johnson doesn't have any points in this game.
I love that take. I love that matchup. You get Agathe McKeer going to the rim, one-on-one against Olivia Miles. Not settling for a jumper, not settling for a three. Cleared out that whole side.
She's got 11, shooting 50% from the field. Hunter.
Suarez really working inside. There's nobody on this side of the floor. Give her a little brush screen. That is a strong take and tough finish at the rim.
.9 on the shot clock for TCU. Big B. And it's a shot clock violation.
Looks like they're coming back to that same play. Olivia Miles going to top block it this time. Oh, great move, Tessa Johnson, but Kennedy Basham. No, thank you. Great defense.
And Agathe McKeer just got herself to the free throw line. It's a second against Veronica Sheffy. You know, talking to Dawn Staley about Agathe McKeer, she said multiple times that McKeer is the most talented guard on the roster on both sides of the ball. She just needs more reps. And she also says, look, Agathe knows that she's good. And Dawn's like, I kind of like it. I like the confidence.
She absolutely likes the confidence and what it takes on a day-to-day basis. And as far as practice habits and work habits, the sky's the limit.
1 of 2 for McKeer.
Carolina going to bring this 2-2-1, three-quarter court. Try to take some time off the clock.
Gamecocks trailed by 8 in the first quarter, and now they lead by 10. Miles looking, saw an opening, took it. And Olivia. And they immediately stand her up and walk her over to the bench. And you can see them working on that left calf. Tessa Johnson kicking to the corner to Maddie McDaniel. Miriam Dowda Dowda saving that play. She stole it and then saved it from going out of bounds.
Miriam Dowda's been giving South Carolina big minutes in this ball game, making hustle plays, keeping possessions alive.
6 seconds. She's got 18 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. Sitting up over on the bench. Basham left it short, got a second chance. And Kennedy Basham just keeps giving TCU big minutes.
She sure is, and what a great read by Marcia Suarez. She knew the double was coming. Kennedy Basham in the right place.
4 seconds, inside to Joyce Edwards. Wave off the shot, the foul. And Joyce Edwards, a 70% free throw shooter. 14 points in the first half for Joyce, just 2 here in the third quarter. Both free throws good for Joyce. Jeffy. Short. TCU, Olivia Miles checked in during that timeout. She went over to the bench after driving to the basket, and the training staff will work on her. But she is back in the ball game. She's 18 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds for TCU. TCU had an 8-point lead in the first quarter. Now they trail by 8. Agat McKeer. You heard Dawn Stay, Gotti as they call her, is doing good things. A fresh
it up, using her length, using her speed, using her quickness.
You heard Dawn Stay, they've got with a small lineup. Steph, what do you like about the small lineup for South Carolina?
Well, I like that it spreads the floor. There's not a lot of room when you've got 2 non-threatening bigs from the 3-point line. And you saw in the third quarter, Kennedy Basham was able to stay in there, and Agat McKeer continues to bring the energy. It is so important to have that X factor, somebody who comes off the bench, somebody who makes plays, and Agat McKeer has been that for South Carolina.
You might say game-changing plays,
yes,
as Dawn said.
Yeah, I like.
Before that, she hadn't been in double figures since December 28th. Peaking at the right time?
Peaking at the right time. And look, when you come into the NCAA tournament, and this is her first NCAA tournament, you have to elevate to a different level, and she continues to do so.
South Carolina has faced their first deficit in this ball game. They've had to go to the smaller lineup in this ball game, but now they are up 53-41 under 9 minutes to decide who's going to the Final Four.
That's a foul. Suarez got away with one right there.
Olivia Miles by herself. Going to be South Carolina. McKeer got there just in time. Going around Bigby.
Whoa! Look, I love the I threw it up, but she made a play anyway.
And South Carolina can run. No surprise, they give it to McKeer. Tessa Johnson. Joyce Edwards in the paint. And that's been one of South Carolina's strengths this season, is pushing pace, running in transition. They've got the athletes to do it.
And now you get an opportunity to continue to do so. If you don't like it, you can always bring it back.
Confidence is just oozing out of Agat McKeer.
It sure is. She has been special in this NCAA tournament. There's another one she got away with, and Joyce Edwards able to get to 2.
Olivia Miles trying to cook and try to stop the bleeding. She's fouled by Tanaya Latson. First against Latson. And so TCU will match up 2, and they'll sub in Clara Silva. What was TCU doing that South Carolina had to go to the small lineup?
I just think the way that they were shortening and shrinking the floor. And Kennedy Basham in the big lineup was just able to stay in the paint. She didn't have to guard anybody. You go to a smaller lineup, you spread the floor, you forced to come out and guard.
Into the corner with Big B. Silva got it back. Miles saw an opening, taken away by Tessa.
Unselfish, picture perfect. Agat McKeer could have shot the layup, made the extra pass to get the better shot. Carolina finished that third quarter with a little bit of urgency, with a little bit of run, and then coming out and aggressive, and it's starting on the defensive end, getting these deflections, lead to steals, and able to finally play at the pace they want to play.
You heard Dawn Staley tell Chris going into the fourth quarter she needed players to step up and make game-changing plays if they wanted to continue this run. So close to another Final Four, and Agat McKeer has given them that with a career-high 18 points tonight. Suarez amongst the trees. It'll be South Carolina ball.
Activity level on the defensive end of the floor, using her length. She's being disruptive. She's getting deflections.
She's got 3 steals.
She's got 3 steals. I mean, she has been active on both ends.
And Tessa Johnson just got her first points of this game. Big drains it from the corner.
We see Donovan Hunter talking to her team. Get back. Let's get a stop.
Gonna stay on this end.
You got to manage defense, taking what you have if you have it in transition. If not, working the clock. And when you've got an experienced player like Raven Johnson, right now Dawn Staley working on execution. Again, the out-of-bounds play.
South Carolina's hit 7 of their last 8 shots. Meanwhile, just 3 points in this quarter for TCU. Olivia Miles trying to add 2 more, but can't. Gamecocks can run if they want. Raven back to Tessa. She loves,
and Johnson did a great job of setting her up.
But most of this game, South Carolina hasn't been able to push that pace. Just until late recently, they've been able to.
Well, you wear them down, and wearing them down with depth. And TCU is a short bench. They rely heavily on the time for their starters. They can bring it on the defensive end. Miriam Dowda's minutes have been huge. You got McKeer's minutes have been huge for the Gamecocks.
So TCU calls a timeout here. They will have no timeouts remaining and under 5 minutes to play, but down 68-46. Earlier tonight, we saw Texas dominate Michigan 77-41. Madison Booker had 19 in that game. Texas back to the Final Four. Now will it be South Carolina hanging on to this large lead or a comeback for TCU?
Nice find on the mismatch.
And 3-second violation on Medina Okot. It's kind of hard to remember that Medina Okot just started basketball year of college basketball because she had played 2 years at an international college before coming over to the States. Marta Suarez gets the layup. But the ceiling is high for Medina Okot and what her future could be.
It sure is, and Dawn Staley talked about Medina Okot and just her development and evolution. Tessa Johnson, she hadn't had many opportunities to get free, but back-to-back threes for Tessa Johnson.
A player that's 5th in the nation in 3-point percentage. That's the third.
Who can guard Tessa?
Well, TCU did for the first part of this game.
They did a really good job of not letting her get free.
And an out for Joyce. Swatted away by Basham. Over to Tessa. Who can guard her?
South Carolina just continues to be relentless on the offensive glass.
Olivia Miles over to the TCU bench with just under 3 minutes to go in this game. But down 24. And something not feeling right for Olivia Miles. They put a sleeve on that leg after she went out earlier in the third quarter. Step back from Suarez.
Yeah, continuing to work.
Where do you think transferring to TCU has helped Olivia Miles the most?
Well, I think this system is perfect for Olivia Miles because it's so heavy in the two-man, and she's so good in it. You know, Mark Campbell talks about we're gonna kill you in the two-man. We're gonna win this system, and I think that she's continued to grow. And on the offense, she's always been an elite passer. She's always been an elite playmaker. But when the floor is spread and she can just go to work, I think she's excelled.
5 seconds here for Maddie McDaniel. Mouse in the corner.
It's the only kind of mouse in the corner that I like, that I'm agreeing with right there. Game went on because they were able to get into their bench. And then they had the right moment at the beginning of that fourth quarter where they finally were able to get some flow on the offensive end.
22 points off the bench for South Carolina, 18 of those from Agat McKeer. And creeping closer and closer to another Final Four. Big B pulls up, bounces out. Helen McDowell over to Miriam Dowda. And South Carolina, a program that has been a #1 seed for the 6th straight tournament, is less than 30 seconds away from a Final Four. It's a TCU program that has made history once again, and Marta Suarez, Olivia Miles, huge pieces of this year's back-to-back Elite Eight run.
In this run for TCU, and Taylor Bigby and Donovan Hunter coming off the floor as well. Both of them talking about how much joy they found in playing with this group.
Tornabees with a turnaround.
But what an effort by South Carolina. Just hung in there. It wasn't always pretty. They stayed true. They broke away in the fourth quarter. And it got McKeer. She did make those game-changing plays.
And it's become the norm Friday in the Final Four.
Hey, and that's going to be a battle. UConn is playing outstanding and efficient basketball on both ends, and the Gamecocks going to